So a season review for the Brumbies. First year for Dan McKellar as head coach of the Brumbies, so it was an interesting one. They ended up finishing 10th with a record of 7 wins and 9 losses, so only a couple of wins, well, one win really, away from a 50-50 record. And not that far from the playoffs at the end of the day, although by the time they played their final game, they knew they couldn't qualify. But right up until week 18 out of 19, they were still mathematically in with a chance to make the playoffs. So yeah, like I said, it was Dan McKellar's first year in charge. Generally, I feel like we should go easy on first-year coaches because for the most part, they're not your players. You didn't bring them in as the head coach. That was the previous coach that signed, or that had all these players brought in. They're used to playing under another coach's system, although he was the assistant, so it shouldn't have been a huge kind of mindset shift for the players to adjust to what he was wanting. Although he did say he wanted to kind of bring something new to the table because, the Brumbies have not been really known for throwing the ball around that much under the last couple of coaches. But, by the time I get this video up, it's going to be scheduled. Today is going to be Thursday. By the time this video goes up, I will have just arrived in New Zealand, probably in the afternoon. So I'm probably going to be pretty jet lagged. So I'm recording this video before I leave. So any comments, I'll reply to them once I get back. Once I have a good sleep. But for the good things with the Brumbies, they were second overall for average run meters, which was impressive. Like, I couldn't imagine that from the Brumbies from a couple of years ago. Fourth at getting over the advantage line. Second for going 7 or more phases. So there's lots of good things here. Fifth in line breaks. And interestingly, they were dead last in kicks made per game and overall kick meters, which just seems unbelievable. Back when they had Jake White in charge, that they just kicked all day long. So it's so amazing to see them in actually 15th spot. So I guess their running game has come a fair way. Defensively, 14th for line breaks conceded. Only the Crusaders concede an average fewer number of line breaks per game. Third in penalties won and 12th in penalties conceded. So they are way at the good side of that. And penalties conceded right at the bottom. So that's very good. And they were dead last in terms of making errors. So there is a whole lot of good stats here for the Brumbies. But there are some key things missing. Despite all their run meters and line breaks and getting over the advantage line, they were only 12th overall in points scored. So, I mean, just at a glance, that tells you they can get up the field, but they can't finish. And the finishing is what costs you. Towards the second half of the season, you feel like they got it right, but the first half of the season, not so much. They were 15th overall in goal kicking, dead last. Liliafano is no longer a radar boot kicker. I don't know if he's ever been that great, but he certainly was better than the 65% the Brumbies had this year, so that was poor. Not sure how they rectify that because Liliafano is not likely to learn any new tricks at his age, but perhaps a good goal kicking coach could work wonders. I guess we'll see. And they were second overall for giving up the advantage line. But to be fair, a lot of their stats were middling. They weren't like last at this, last at that. They were 9th at this and 9th at that. So for the most part, not too bad. It's just, not getting enough points on the board seems to be their main drawback. In terms of their record, they were 50-50 at home. So they managed to win 4 out of 8 and managed to pick up 3 from 8 on the road. So if they could have just improved their home record, they would have been probably a shoo-in for the finals at least. You'd have to say that Tom Banks was one of their standout performers. He scored, I think, 9 tries overall in the season, some really cracking tries. He showed some good gas. In terms of performances themselves, they beat the Hurricanes 24 points to 12 at home, which was totally unexpected. I mean, the start of the season, the Aussie team hadn't beaten a New Zealand team in a very long time, and yet week 17, Hurricanes went down to the Brumbies over in Australia. They beat the Waratahs in the final week, 40 points to 31. Perhaps cost the Waratahs a home semi-final, which in the long run may have ended up costing the Waratahs that trip to Christchurch, but maybe they'll thank them later. And they also beat the Bulls away from home with a man down, 38 points to 28. So they showed some real mettle. But if you look at all these games that I've picked as their kind of highlight games of the season, that was week 15, week 17, and week 19. All way at the end of the season. We needed to see this earlier, but I'm kind of willing to let it go because it was new coach. Like, it takes some. If he's only taken half a season to get his ideas across and to get the results he wanted, that's actually surprisingly quick. I mean, you look at Tana at the Blues, they still haven't got things right, and he's been in charge for years. You look at Robbie Fleck's season with the Stormers, they didn't get things right this year, despite their own kind of issues. So yeah, it's actually remarkable that they did as well as they did. There were still some lowlights. They did go on a 5-match losing run, including 3 games at home, which at that point I was ready to write the Brumbies off. They were just so bad, but then they managed to turn it around. But there was a 21-8 loss to Crusaders in Canberra, loss during that 5-game run. You may think 21 points to 8 against the Crusaders, that's not too bad. Crusaders played pretty bad in that game, and for a while I think the Brumbies had 2 men up, and they didn't do nothing. It was a really poor effort, but yeah, from there I admit the Brumbies turned it around, so I am pretty impressed overall. But that was a low light, and you'd have to say Rob Valtini, the young 19-year-old, he's got lots of props on him about how he's going to be, a possible Wallaby in the future. He's a good back rower, but I've hardly seen him because he keeps getting injured. Every time he plays, he just gets injured. The guy's got no luck. So his inability to stay fit is a low light in terms of the way players' seasons have gone. I will give the Brumbies credit for the way they managed guys like Pocock and Liliafano. Liliafano had been playing up in the Pro 14 after his comeback from illness, and he's post 30 years old, so they managed him well when he was perhaps not at 100% fitness. And Pocock coming back from injury, they didn't just blast him out and kind of burn him out. They managed his fitness well, so he managed to play most of the games. So they did that very well, managing their key men who, like I said, are on the wrong side of 30. I think Pocock's 30. Anyway, for next year, their core kind of squad is still going to be intact. Most of the key guys are still there. Interesting that Folau Fainga has come along really well as a potential Wallaby hooker. Like at the start of the season, he was nowhere to be seen, but with the injury to Josh Man Ray, Folau Fainga looks the business. So that's very good. Also, they've got Pocock, Samu, and Cusack in that back row for next season confirmed. So that's pretty intimidating. Those guys are all very good. And Valtini, if he's fit, like I said, he's this young guy with lots of potential. If he can stay fit, that's 4 guys who will really make a difference. Spate went better as the season went on, and he signed up for next year as well. Banks is on for next year. So there's a lot of key guys on, signed up for Brumbies 2019. Nasarani has left. He's going to the Rebels for 2019. Penny's contract is still, I believe, to be sorted out. Same with Muirhead, who looked really good at the end of the season. But I did read a quote from, because they do have areas that they need to fill. I did read a quote from Dan McKellar, who basically said they're not looking for any rock stars. They just want to build guys who are going to make a difference for the team. And I think that is absolutely the right way to go about it. If you pick up some guy who's, 29, 30, has expectations that he's going to be starting every week, and he plays the way he wants to play because he's been playing that way for 10 years, that probably doesn't fit what he wants. I think if he can get some young talent, someone who really wants to play, maybe hasn't had a chance at Super Rugby level, and he can develop them, get them into the Brumbies system, then I think he'll be heading in the right direction. So I am confident for the Brumbies going forward. I wouldn't have said so towards the middle of the season, but now, based on the way they finished the season, I'd have to say I'm encouraged with what I'm seeing. For a first year, I think it's a pretty decent crack. Next year will be an interesting one for them. You guys let me know how you think the season went for the Brumbies and how you think they will work going forward. Liliafano, I don't know if I mentioned, he is sticking on for next season as well. He has signed a contract. I think Joe Powell's on, so Most of the key guys are on, but like I said, still some spots to fill. Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.